Now is that the amendment be agreed to. I call the member for Canberra.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I wholeheartedly oppose the repeal of the Australian Renewable Energy Agency because it's a backward step for our country and it will have a significant effect on our ability to compete in a low-carbon future. Labor is fully committed to ARENA and to its role in improving the competitiveness of renewable energy technologies and increasing the supply of renewable energy in Australia. It's been interesting to listen to speeches over the last few weeks on these sorts of issues, Deputy Speaker, from around the community about the fact that the government, particularly government members, have actually spoken about the great work being done by ARENA, particularly investing in world-class renewable projects and providing certainties to the sector and creating jobs. However, those opposite have acknowledged the considerable success of ARENA, they're still wanting to get rid of it, repeal the agency, and I'm assuming that is purely on ideological reasons rather than on the great benefits that are generated by ARENA, not just in terms of developing and supporting renewable energy projects, world-class renewable energy projects, Deputy Speaker, but most importantly in creating jobs for Australians right across the nation. Now, Deputy Speaker, I just want to go a bit into the background of ARENA, because Labor established ARENA in 2012. And it's an independent agency that's designed to improve the competitiveness of renewable energy technologies in Australia and to increase the supply of renewable energy to Australia's electricity markets. ARENA provides financial assistance largely through grants, and it's been providing these grants to nearly 200 renewable energy agencies or organisations for developments. 70% of ARENA's funding has gone to projects in rural and regional Australia, Deputy Speaker, 70% to country Australia. And the Abbott Government's axing of this very important body and its work puts many of those projects and those jobs in jeopardy. Now, I'd like to talk about just a few of the 200 projects that ARENA has supported to date, including 27 projects based right here in the ACT. And the projects that I want to talk about today are quite extraordinary projects, Deputy Speaker. They focus on solar energy and just trying to improve the way that we generate solar energy. Now, one of them that is here in the ACT is an Australian solar energy forecasting system. ARENA put in just over $3 million into this project, and it's a total project value of $7.6 million. Now, this project, the lead organisation of this project is the CSIRO, and as we know, Deputy Speaker, those opposite have a complete disdain for CSIRO. I think that they're getting rid of about 500 jobs there. It's not really surprising given the fact that they don't even have a Minister for Science, so why would they respect a world-leading organisations such as CSIRO that has produced extraordinary research that's benefited not just Australia but also the world, particularly in the agricultural sector. Deputy Speaker, the project partners on this extraordinary project are the Australian Energy Market Operator, the Bureau of Meteorology, University of New South Wales, University of South Australia and the US National Renewable Energy Lab. And so it's not just here in Canberra that sees the benefit of this spend, Deputy Speaker, or this investment rather. It's also organisations, academic organisations and labs and bureaus right across Australia. Now, the reason that this project was developed was because it was seen that there was difficulty in providing accurate supply and demand forecast models on solar energy. And so the project sought to develop those, to improve those models and, through the process, increase commercial viability and ensure the stability of the electricity grid. The benefit of the project is that it would produce the most advanced operational solar forecasting system available, and through its unique researcher access to data, provide a platform for knowledge sharing for researchers, investments, industry and governments. So it not only has an immediate effect in terms of just being able to better forecast what was happening in the solar space, but it also has a knock-on effect in terms of the benefits throughout the academic community, throughout industry and also throughout government. Deputy Speaker, the other project, another project I want to highlight today too is a project again worth just over $4 million, with a total project of ARENA funding, with a total project value of just over $15 million. And the lead organisation on this was the wonderful Australian National University, with project partners of the UNSW, China Solar and Temperis. And also the locations of this was particularly interesting, Deputy Speaker. Sydney, Changzhou in China, Vassen in Netherlands and here in Canberra. Now, this project was particularly interesting in the fact that it was looking to focus on advanced surface and contact technologies to improve solar cells. And the project benefit was to develop advanced industry-ready cell designs that reduce costs, increase efficiency and to access new markets. The benefits of these improvements will flow to Australian customers through the project partner China Solar, which is one of the largest suppliers of solar panels in Australia. Another project, Deputy Speaker, here in the ACT, again solar panels, and this is specifically for the Australian environment. It's a particularly interesting project because, given that Australia is a relatively hot and arid environment, unfortunately the photovoltaic modules are not optimised to operate in Australia. What's required is significant improvements in energy yield, and module failure rates tend to affect the actual production of solar because these panels, unfortunately, aren't optimised to operate here in Australia. And so what this project was doing through just over $500,000 of ARENA funding and $1.2 million in total funding, again through the ANU, it was designed to improve the solar panels so that they gave greater cost effectiveness of PV in Australia. Also provided a better understanding of PV module degradation in Australian conditions, again unique conditions, and also to make locally manufacturing PV modules better, more competitive in the Australian market, and I suppose in the international market, particularly in those areas where the circumstances are similar to Australia, with hot, dry, arid areas. Deputy Speaker, these are extraordinary projects that some of just the 200 that ARENA has supported to date, and it's just extraordinary to think that they could be no more. Now, Deputy Speaker, on the 1st of July this year, ARENA celebrated its second anniversary. It's been in existence for just 2 short years, and it has succeeded in shifting Australia's energy landscape. Under our Labor, that is, our renewable energy policies, wind power generation has tripled. The number of jobs in the renewable energy sector have tripled, and the number of households with rooftop solar panels has increased from 7,400 to almost 1.2 million. Labor's renewable energy policies have been a success story, but they are now under attack from this government. This government is seeking to undo that important work, and it's important work that, as I said, Deputy Speaker, has significant benefit for regional and rural Australia. So, Deputy Speaker, why is ARENA so important for renewable energy? Well, we've learnt from the renewable energy markets overseas that stable, long-term policy provides the renewable energy industry with the certainty it needs to expand. And in Australia, ARENA is an important part of this long-term policy setting. Deputy Speaker, we should be learning from the rest of the world. The number of the countries with renewable energy targets more than doubled between 2005 and 2012, with at least 118 countries, over half of the world's countries, now having renewable energy targets in place. And of these, 109 countries have policies to support renewables in the power sector. Currently, 19 of the G20 member countries have some sort of renewable energy support policy, and all of Australia's top 10 trading partners have policies to promote renewable energy. Worldwide, an estimated 5 million people work directly or indirectly in renewable energy industries, and, Deputy Speaker, that is just going to grow. And global investment in 2010 reached US $243 billion, which was an increase of 30% from 2009. This is a growth industry, Deputy Speaker. As I said, in order for Australia to maintain its competitiveness in the international arena, we have to develop industries that will be able to compete in a low-carbon environment, in a low-carbon world, in a low-carbon market. This is just so regressive, this move proposed by the government. And, Deputy Speaker, in addition to just getting rid of ARENA, the government's also got considering getting rid of the renewable energy target. So it's not just an attack on renewable energy sector through ARENA, it's also an attack on the RET, and either wanting to scrap that or significantly weaken it. Now, as we all know, the RET was introduced by the Howard Government in 2001, and until now it had enjoyed bipartisan support, Deputy Speaker. It's just quite extraordinary. It enjoyed bipartisan support for a very long time. It was introduced in 2001 as part of the Howard Government's climate change strategy, and it sought to increase renewable electricity generation by an additional 2% by 2010 on top of existing generation. Now, the target was subsequently expanded in 2009 by the Rudd Government to increase to 20% of all electricity generation by 2020. Deputy Speaker, despite promising not to change the RET prior to the election, and a number of now ministers have made those commitments, where they said we've got no plans to change the renewable energy target. The Prime Minister actually used those words, but we also had a number of ministers also proclaiming that the RET would not be changed. So despite this promise by those ministers, despite the promise by the Prime Minister, we are now hearing that the RET is placing upward pressure on power prices, and as a result of that, we had the Warburton review, and as a result of that, the whole RET and the renewable energy industry is in a complete state of flux and uncertainty. Deputy Speaker, modelling has established that the abolition of the RET would see no reduction in household power prices, and carbon emissions would climb by 15 million tonnes a year on the back of a 9% increase in coal-fired power. The modelling commissioned by the Climate Institute, the Australian Conservation Foundation and WWF indicated that for a household consuming 6.5 megawatt-hours of electricity annually, which is the New South Wales average, reducing the renewable energy target would add about $35 to the annual power bill. Most of this increase will take place after 2020. An abolition of the renewable energy target would add about $80 a year to the annual power bill. Deputy Speaker, the same modelling also indicated that reducing the renewable energy target would cost the federal budget about $680 million in extra funding to meet Australia's target of 5% emissions reductions by 2020, in addition to the socialised costs amounting from higher levels of pollution, which the model estimated conservatively to be about $14 billion. Now, not surprisingly, we learnt last week that the government's apparently independent review of the RET recommended that we either significantly weaken or even scrap the target. But this recommendation is completely out of step with what the Australian community wants. A recent news poll published in The Australian on Wednesday, the 20th of August, showed that 98% of Australians support renewable energy. And, Deputy Speaker, I'd like to just now read, just to take the few minutes I've got left to speak on this issue, to read for a couple of the emails that I've received from the Canberra community on this issue, some of those 98% who do support renewable energy, those 98% of Australians who support renewable energy. It's a letter from a constituent who says that he wants to register his strong objection to any proposal to weaken or reduce the RET. Any such step is retrograde and gives no benefit to the community at large, whilst encouraging the fossil fuel industries. Another who says that the RET has been remarkably successful in building clean wind energy throughout Australia. With bipartisan support, it has driven over $18 billion of investment, thousands of jobs, and delivered community benefits and bolstered rural economies. Clean wind energy guards against Australian consumers against the risk of power price rises. It cuts the wholesale cost of power and reduces our exposure to the swiftly rising price of gas. So, Deputy Speaker, there's just a few of the views of those 98% of Australians who support renewable energy. Deputy Speaker, it's just extraordinary that this government, when the world is moving towards renewable energy, so many countries, 19 of the G20 member countries have some sort of renewable energy support policy in place, that we should swim against that tide. Deputy Speaker, this government's attack on renewable energy is an ideological one. Scrapping the arena and scrapping the RET will do nothing to reduce power prices. It will be devastating for Australia's renewable energy sector in Australia, and most importantly, it will lead to job losses, and it will put Australia behind the rest of the world when it comes to renewable energy, and we completely oppose this retrograde step.